The Gina and Matty podcast.
I mentioned that this month of November I am doing Movember, G, and look, can you see how
You are all clean shaven and you look like a schoolboy.
this is a once a year thing for me. I never clean shave except for on the 31st of October.
Did your wife
Movember.
love it when you go home all clean shaven?
No, she goes, "Whoa, that is a lot of face. That's
More than she can deal with.
Yeah, and it's one of those things also when you see people that usually have facial hair, you don't normally see their chin and their neck. And
Yeah.
I feel very exposed, but that's okay because I am doing it for what is such a great cause, which is Movember. And a little bit of a backstory on that. Movember is about our fathers, partners, brothers and friends all facing a health crisis that's not really talked about. Men are dying way too young. And, you know, we can't afford to stay quiet on this. Mental health, I do need to preface this by saying there are some tricky subjects that you cover when you talk about men's mental health in Movember. So if that is a little, much for you right now, then maybe, come back after the news with Suze. But mental health is one of the big parts of it. Suicide prevention is another one. And then, of course, the physical health side of things, prostate cancer and testicular cancer. And that's what we talk about when we talk about Movember. And it's not just a men's issue either. I think that can get sort of caught up in Movember because for every time we talk about men's health, there's a mother, a daughter, a sister, a wife, a girlfriend, a mate, a colleague that is impacted by this as well. And since 2003, Movember has funded more than 1,000 men's health projects around the world, trying to challenge the status quo and shaking up men's health research and transforming the way men's health reach really people that would not normally seek out that kind of service. So I've taken part in Movember for years, and when I said to you, G, that I'd like to do it here as well, yourself and the team all jumped on board, which I think is just also shows what sort of community we have here at Star 104.5 as well. Yesterday, in our big team meeting, what did everyone do, G? All the boys in the office?
All the boys got their beards and anything they got on their faces all shaved up. So everybody's all clean shaven here at the moment. Everyone looks really young.
Yeah.
And this means you start from scratch, right? So it's going to be a competition who can mow the fastest.
Malt's one of our big bosses here who has, I don't think, I've known Malt's on and off for nearly 20 years, right? And I don't think I've ever seen him without facial hair. So in the team meeting yesterday, we had Ali and Armin from Mr. Cuts in Erin Affair come in and give us all clean shaves, trying to talk about the serious things that are going on in the office for the next week. And then there's Ali just trimming everyone's facial hair. But yeah, no, Shane with a Y, our boss is on board. Adam, who you hear across the workday, as well as Luke and Rory from the office. We've all shaved down and we've started our Star 104.5 Movember team. There's plenty of ways, if you're listening at the moment and you want to get involved in Movember, hearing about the issues and what it does, you can, obviously donate to someone. You can grow the Mo. There's Move for Movember as well, where you can pledge to walk or run 60 kilometres over the month. So you've got like 30 odd days just to move that 60 kilometres and ask for donations that way. What I'm going to do, because my moustache is a little underwhelming these days with the amount of grey that's in it, Jane.
It's a bit sparkly.
Oh, there's more salt than pepper these days. I used to grow a pretty ugly slug that was there, and now it's like you have to squint because it's like it disappears in photos because it's so grey these days.
You could be one of those guys that colours their mo. You can buy that at the chemist, I think.
It's so obvious. If you are colouring your beard, gents, we know. Okay? Everyone knows, okay? But compared to my head of hair... Yeah,
you don't have any grey in your hair.
There's a real balance, like it's an unequal balance between the grey that grows on my facial hair to the grey that's not in my hair. Anyway.
Carpet doesn't match the curtains, is that what you're saying?
When that happens, I'm going to throw the towel in. The day I find the first one down there, I'll be like, oh, okay. Time to move to AM.
Sorry, I took that somewhere a bit far.
It's fine.
Pull it back.
Pull it back. Well, not that. It'll hurt. Look, So because my mo is a little bit ordinary these days, I thought I'm going to challenge myself in another way because there's also More Than a Run that's powered by Lululemon and Movember. That's the extra challenge that I'm going to give myself this year. So More Than a Run was set up by a couple of lads in Sydney a few years ago to bring together runners of all levels and running clubs across the country for this great cause. And there are sort of 3 distances that you challenge yourself to run in one go. So there's a 10 kilometre, a 30 kilometre or a 60 kilometre run. So the 10 kilometre run is for the 1 in 10 men around the world living with an anxiety disorder. Mm-hmm. The 30 is for the 30... This statistic is horrific and it should be going the other way. The 30 is for the 30% rise in the number of Australian men dying by suicide over the last decade. Mm. It is the biggest killer of men aged 16 to 44 in this country. And the 60 kilometres is for the 60 men we lose to suicide each hour, every hour around the world. So when you think about that, we've been on air, for 3 hours. We started at 5:30. So if you do the math there, it is a number that we need to bring down. It just shouldn't be happening. So I'm going to push myself this year. My body isn't in great shape, but I'm doing a lot better than there are people in the world at the moment dealing with what they're dealing with. So I'm going to push myself to do a big 30-kilometre run at the end of the month and try and raise as much money and awareness as I can for men's mental health. There's plenty of people struggling to get out of bed today. So for them, I'm going to be getting out of bed and giving a 30-kilometre run a red-hot crack. Try and get as much awareness out there as possible. I know that there's a More Than a Run event happening here on the coast on Saturday the 30th at Gosford Waterfront, the Running Repairs Clinic at Long Jetty, organising that. You can join their team as well if you find them on Instagram. But that's what I'm going to do, Jay. I'm going to try and get these old knees and these tight hips, and the groin's fine, but everything else is looking a little bit tight and dusty. But I'll get out there at the end of the month, run a 30K run and try and raise as much money as I can, along with the team here at Star 104.5. So if you are in the position to do so, we'd love you to jump on board with the Star 104.5 team. Drop a donation. The smallest donation could save a life. So all the links are on our socials, on the Gina and Matty Instagram page or on the Facebook page. And then, I better start stretching and start getting this body going because I would love to raise as much money as I can for this needy cause.
Well done, Matty. That's so cool.
Thanks, G, and thank you for your support as well, because I know how you're buying into this big time. You're going to be having to put up with me being sore and limping around the office as I try and get these running shoes back on.
You're always limping. You'll be limping more than usual.
Elizabeth, hello. Hello, what can we do for you?
Maddie.
Hello.
Well, I just loved hearing what you're doing, Maddie, for Movember. Honestly, it's super inspiring. But
thanks,
I gotta say, how do we know you're actually going to run the 30 kilometres if you're just doing it on the weekend?
He might just say you did and he didn't.
No, I'm on Strava. It doesn't count unless you're on Strava, which is a running app for those people paying home. But what I did say just before the news is I'm going to do part of a More Than a Run event. I'm going to run 30 kilometres at the end of November, for Movember. Mate, I'll film myself doing it. How about that?
No,
is that enough for you? No.
I think if anyone else listening might be with me on this, I think you should do it on air. I think you should run it on air. 30 kilometres on air.
Can you do? Will you be too puffed?
I think you can do it.
I'd be like,
okay, hang on. So
whether.
The problem is, I suppose I was thinking if I run, then I've got to be out of the studio. I can't press the buttons, and that's problematic. I don't know. That's not a bad idea, though, Elizabeth. Maybe we could have a bit of a catch-up.
Keep you accountable, basically.
Yeah.
Do you reckon we could get a treadmill in the studio? If we could get a treadmill through, this is what I'll do. If we can get a treadmill through, because the doors are quite small, but if we can get a treadmill up the stairs and into the studio, into the office.
Yeah. Great idea.
Instead of doing it on the Saturday the 30th, this will take some heavy lifting for some people that have a higher pay grade than me.
Literal heavy lifting.
Yeah. See if we can work the logistics out of it. But I'll try and run the 30Ks on air on the Friday before then, the Friday the 29th, and do it on air.
Would that make you happy, Elizabeth?
Is that good enough for you, Elizabeth?
I think so, and I think a lot of people will get behind you. If you can do that, there's no stopping you, Maddie. You're just a spring chicken. You got this.
Spring chicken.
God, Elizabeth, I like the cut of your jib. You can stick around, my friend, and you can be my biggest cheerleader. Okay, I'll do it. We'll do it. If we can get a treadmill in here, I'll run the 30Ks live on air on Friday
great.
the 29th.
Are you one of those runners on a treadmill that sweat goes in every direction? You know when you go to the gym and you're near those people that just sweat even on you and you're not next to them?
If I look at a light, I start sweating. It is going to be foul. It's going to be festy. I'm just going to be an absolute mess. I am going to be breathing heavy and it's going to be brilliant radio.
Elizabeth, we might get you in to bring in some air freshener.
I'll come spritz him. I'll spritz him.
Okay.
The Gina and Matty Podcast.
For more great comedy shows like this, head to novapodcast.com.au.